Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the May Music is Education webinar. We're so glad that you're here joining us. We know that May is such a busy time for anyone in music education. So we appreciate you taking some time to join us today. And what we're doing today is a really a wrap up of a lot of things that we've been doing throughout the year as it comes to the Music as Education Coalition. And we are looking at wins in music and arts education advocacy. I'm lucky enough to I should introduce myself, I guess. I'm Mark Despotakis. I'm the Director of Public and Government Affairs at the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association. And I'm lucky enough to get to talk to college students a lot about the role of policy and advocacy in their careers. And one of the things that I always ask them is define advocacy for me. And I've got so many wonderful answers over the years of doing this. But there is one answer that has always stood out to me, and it was by a college professor of a class that I was in speaking to her class. And I always use this example, and it is perfect for today. Her answer is the definition of advocacy is telling the good news. And that is much of what we are doing today. We are going to be talking about a lot of the good news, the wins in music and arts education advocacy that you can learn from to hear that this can be done. This is being done. Maybe you'll get some ideas from all of this, and hopefully you will get some inspiration. So, what we'd like you to do first off is introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know that you're here. Feel free to put your name, your state, and your role in the chat. And as we are going through the presentation tonight, if you have any questions or thoughts that you would like to ask of the presenters or share with the presenters, feel free to put that in the chat as well. As we get to the end of the presenters, you're going to have the opportunity to have some of those questions answered. So at this point, I am thrilled to turn things over to Jasmine A. Sutton. She is a Senior Director of State Advocacy and Equity for NAFME, and she is going to facilitate the conversation tonight. Jasmine A.?
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Mark, for kicking that off. And I am all about spreading the good news. And we get to hear from Scott Bergener, who is the Music Education Department Specialist in Mesa Public Schools in Arizona. So, welcome, Scott. We would love to hear the good news that is happening in your school district.
Hi, yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on our district. We are the largest school district in Arizona. We have about 56,000 students. We're a suburb of Phoenix, and we employ about 140 music teachers, K through 12. And our current offerings in music for the elementary school since 2008 has been we offer general music in K through 6, one time a week for 30 minutes. And we offer band and orchestra in grades 4 through 6, two times a week for 30 minutes. So that's the contact time that the students get. Our district has had a long history of excellence in the arts and music. But because of declining enrollment, we are facing budget shortfalls like many other districts around the country. So 2 years ago in the 24-25 school year, our superintendency formed a design team in response to these budget shortfalls to redesign what we offer for elementary specials, which is music, art, PE, band, orchestra, all of the additional subjects that students get that really typically make them want to come to school. But they were looking at, of course, cutting these things first. The design team met for 6 months, and after looking at a lot of case studies and various data and things like that, the decision was made to recommend to our school board to cut general music in grades 4 through 6 and to also make some pretty major modifications to our band and orchestra delivery in elementary school, where it would have made it a lot more difficult for as many students to take part in it. So this was shared out to parents and the community prior to the school board's final decision. And our music teachers really rallied once they heard about this and got the word out to parents. They shared it in every way that they possibly could. And because of this outpouring of advocacy that happened at that time, we had over 200 people pack the boardroom the night of the actual school board's decision. And most of them were there to address the cuts in music. There were some other folks there to talk about some of the other specials, but the good majority were there for music. And they all spoke to the positive things that music does for their kids, not only musically, but all of the other stuff that they get out of participating in music that just makes them a better all-around person. So, what we found out at the end of this meeting was that the school board never wanted to cut music to begin with. It was the superintendency who was just looking for ways to save the money wherever they could. And since music isn't necessarily required by law in Arizona, it was an easy target. And so that was that. But what the board did was, since they didn't want to make cuts, they listened to the community and they decided to spend a couple $1 million from our rainy day fund to fund music for one more year, while the design team was instructed to go back and look at things again and come up with some different solutions that maybe were a little more creative than just cutting subjects. And so that's what we did. We saved music at the end of the 24-25 school year, but then we knew we were going to be back at the advocacy game again the following year once the design team met again. So on to the next school year, 25-26, which this school year, we met with the design team for another 6 months. And really, the design team in the second iteration involved more parents and more teachers. And ultimately, the design team couldn't come up with a good decision. They honestly didn't want to make the decision to make any cuts. So they convinced our superintendency to send out a survey to the community with some possible recommendations for what to cut and that type of thing. And as you would expect, the community survey, because they were so strongly in favor of music, they were so much in favor of music the first time. The survey didn't show anybody wanting to cut anything. So ultimately, what happened was the superintendency decided not to change anything again, and they made some cuts elsewhere in the district. And in doing that, they've kind of restructured the district admin a little bit and rearranged some administrative positions and reduced some spending in that area. So unfortunately, the design team has been instructed to meet for a third time this coming year. I don't know what's going to become of that, but it is what it is. They want us to keep looking at ways to try and shave things off of what we're doing, because they don't want to close schools, is what it really comes down to. And so they're looking for ways that they can still legally offer everything that they're required to offer by law, and maybe make cuts in other areas. So we're going to keep fighting the good fight. And we know that our community values music, and we're going to keep them up to date on things as things progress, as we always do. And we'll go from there. But right now we're considering it a big win for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and I love that even though you were successful the first time, it didn't mean that you stopped your advocacy the second time, nor will
Right.
it be the third time. So,
Yeah.
in this theme of celebrating, just because we have that win doesn't mean that the fight is over. It just means that we will continue to support and advocate for our students. And for anybody that is watching this webinar, I would highly recommend diving a little more deeper into this model of using a rainy day fund to stave off some potential cuts and then giving time for the community to have input. I love the idea for the survey. That's awesome. But also just being able to point to your school district and say, hey, Mesa did it for 2 years. How can we borrow from this idea?
Right.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, Scott. And I do think that there will be lots of folks who can take from the Mesa example and utilize it in their school districts, no matter where they're located. So we appreciate you sharing. We will bring you back a little bit later on, but now I would love to bring forward Jay Wardeska, who is the executive director for the Ohio Music Education Association. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, Jasmine A, and thanks everyone for being here tonight. The In addition to serving as OMEA's executive director, I also am the executive director of our Ohio Foundation for Music Education, and both of those organizations obviously are at the forefront of advocacy. And certainly, Ohio, it's probably not a lot of different than what you're all experiencing, except that maybe a little bit more intense. We're a little ahead of the curve right now with the ground zero of funding issues and the things that are facing us. So my win is really trying to leverage a tool to help myself. We lost a few positions a few years ago on our staff, and two of those positions actually were key to creating media content and the advocacy part of things. So as you might guess, those things have fell onto my plate. So I was trying to figure out how I could leverage the time I have to try to be effective in this little fight. So we all know that being a good advocate requires staying current and trying to respond quickly and communicate pervasively. And obviously, with the amount of work that we all do, it's really hard to do that with limited time and resources. So I decided to do a little dance with the devil and see how I could engage AI to perhaps help me. And that was really inspired out of the great development of Carl B, which, if you aren't familiar with that tool on the Music is Education website, that needs to become one of your best friends. So I kind of put all of the tools together to try to create an efficient way for me to not just create social media campaigns, although I've done a lot with that, but also even creating documents for leave behinds for our meetings with legislators. I've been able to tailor things specifically to schools that are having specific crises, and all in just a matter of, no more than 10 minutes to create something very effective. So my process here is kind of four parts, as you see. My first step is to use an AI chatbot that I have some prompts that I've kind of crafted that help me be able to dig into the current events that are happening specific to Ohio. I tend to use Perplexity because I trust it the most with sources and things. Because I think we all know we have to be careful with AI in terms of making sure the information you get is effective. But I use a prompt that's like very specific to searching Ohio media sources and looking for the most recent stories on music education funding, policy changes or cuts, which are happening pretty quickly. So that's where I start in terms of getting where I'm going to go with my most recent campaigns. And then I usually even ask that whether I'm using Perplexity or Gemini, I ask it to help me craft the best prompt that I then take to Carl B. And I've compared, these AI tools, and I still find Carl B is way ahead of the curve in terms of being able to produce effectively what I'm looking for in terms of communication. So Carl B usually helps me very quickly be able to create a really focused advocacy message. I usually give Carl some background. I obviously give it the prompt and the information I got from Perplexity. And then normally I ask it to provide three different types of tone. And it depends on whether I'm doing something that's specific to give to a legislator or to a school board member, or obviously on our social media platform. And then whether I want the tone of it to be celebratory, informative, or if I'm really looking for a call to action. And usually I get from that three or four really great options from Carl B. And then I always ask Carl to go ahead and get, if they were to describe for me an image, if I'm going to do a social media post, or give me a prompt for infographics, whatever kind of visual package I want to accompany it. And Carl creates the prompt, but then I take that and usually I use Nano Banana, which is the Gemini focused visual platform. And it has created usually almost the first time around exactly what I was looking for, a very polished and effective graphic. If I'm looking to create a leave behind for legislators, I ask it to create that for me. And it's been very, very effective. There are a lot of other tools that sometimes I'll go to if I'm doing something maybe more widespread, like a multi-page document. I might use Canva or Adobe Express, something like that. Um, but it may sound like it's a process, but it's for me it's pretty effective. I have them all on my desktop. And I can just literally very efficiently go from the chat bot to Carl B and then creating the visual. And what I make it all my Monday morning project. Usually big news happens over the weekend, and I schedule out all the social media posts and try to get all of those things done first thing on Monday morning. And I would say I can create all of these things within no more than 15 minutes. I can probably have 3 or 4 very effective social media posts. And obviously, unfortunately, in Ohio, there's no shortage of time or of content these days. So I'm happy certainly to answer questions for anybody should they come up, but I found it a really effective way to become a more professional and focused advocate.
Wow. Okay, I just have to just point out, you said 15 minutes Monday morning. I love that habit of like just sitting down, dedicating 15 minutes and letting the tools work for you. Also, thanks for the little notes at the bottom of each section of like how you actually use it. So again, if you're watching this back, just look in a little closer because he's even giving you some prompts that you could probably change out for your state or maybe your organization. But I also loved what you said about the three different tones when you're drafting the messaging, right? So we are not thinking as hard. We're making the tools work for us. And definitely check out Carl B. That is in the chat. I think Lynn posted that for us as well. It's a great tool and resource for folks. Thank you so much, Jay. And we will again come back to you a little bit later in the webinar.
Thank you,
And
Jasmine.
next, next we have the amazing Michelle Milligan, who is the co-chair of Advocacy and Government Relations for Virginia Music Educators Association. She's also the president-elect of the Virginia Association for Music Education Administrators. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Jasmine, and for that introduction. I'm also the Performing Arts Coordinator for Prince William County Public Schools, which is the second largest school division in Virginia that serves over 90,000 students. And a little interesting fun fact about me, prior to my role here, coming at the local level, I was actually the Virginia Department of Education music specialist for a couple of years, which plays an important role kind of in my advocacy efforts and brings an interesting lens and perspective. So I'm excited to share a quick overview of VMEA's advocacy work that happened in the past year. This was a really strong year for us with a focus on collaboration, consistency, and strategic engagement with a lot of different people. So I'm going to start with our biggest celebration. This year, we had a passage of House Bill 478, which established a diploma seal for excellence in fine arts for our Virginia students. This bill will take effect July 1st and represents an important step in recognizing the arts as part of a well-rounded education. It also expands opportunities for students and reinforces the value of music and arts programs across our state. We are so excited about this. I also think my slide has like extra animation, so I'm sorry that there's a couple extra clicks on my slide. But thank you for going ahead and advancing. And I just wanted to share a little bit about that bill because I'm sure you're wondering how we did it, what happened. I don't have too much time, but I'm always happy to, if anyone wants to reach out to share more about our process. But the effort really started. I have to give a shout out to my dear friend and colleague Annie Ray, who is the 2024 Grammy Music Educator of the Year. She played a key role in securing Delegate Vivian Watts as our bill sponsor. It's something that's been on Virginia's wish list for a long time to establish this seal, and Annie had an opportunity. She had a window of opportunity, and she took it, and I'm so proud she did, because from there we were able to build a lot of momentum, and things move really, really slow until they move really, really fast in advocacy, I feel like sometimes. That's certainly how it felt this year. So from there, we built our momentum. We engaged with our Virginia Coalition for Fine Arts Education to help us rally and refine our language and align our messaging with our partners from our other organizations. And then at the same time, you can see that kind of second section there talks about a legislation that wasn't as positive. So we were really, really busy this session, where we also saw a bill that was proposed on the House and the Senate side that recommended increasing class size limits for ensemble music classes in sixth grade from 35 to 45. And VMEA opposed this bill ultimately, but it was an interesting journey to get there. We were really split because on one hand, we want to increase opportunities for our students and make sure we can engage as many students as possible. But at the same time, you can kind of see the graphics are small, but I think you get the general gist of what is happening here. We were trying to show the impact that that might actually have on our classrooms, because would this actually mean in practice that we would see more students crammed into fewer sections of classes? And our organization was very divided for a while, but what we did to kind of champion that is we conducted a statewide survey. We didn't really know what scheduling looked like in Virginia. I knew what it looked like in my immediate area, and of course in the Northern Virginia area where I'm at. But what did this look like across the Commonwealth, and how did that impact our larger Virginia state? So we communicated a survey out that would communicate the potential impact on instruction, student safety, and program quality. And as the bill moved forward, we coordinated outreach efforts with our partners and members to ensure that our concerns were heard. If you are unaware of this, the bill actually passed the Senate side unanimously, and that made our organization very nervous because there was no opportunity for public comment. It flew through the Senate, but we kept we kept on it, and we kept engaging, and we engaged more and more and more, and ultimately the bill was struck in the House by the sponsoring patron because we had made such a loud voice as it did the crossover that it ended up not even being presented on the House side. So this was an important outcome, and obviously a different kind of win, but something I wanted to share as well. So I think a key part of our work was our communication approach. We focused on clear and consistent messaging across many different platforms, and we made sure that our members, not only in our organizations, but all of our partner organizations, had the tools and the information that they needed to engage. So we had to educate them on the bill quickly, we had to provide language, and then as you can see on the right, we provided some catchy, as much as we could, some social media graphics that could be shared and kind of catch people's eyes as, they're scrolling social media. And I shout out to my friend Jay, who presented in front. Hi, we just met, but hello, we're already friends. But the AI was also very helpful in helping us to really make that language speak to different audiences. So we definitely tapped into that. And then we used our Canva friend to help make some pretty graphics. So very exciting. And the other thing that I think was helpful for communication is we launched 2 highly successful NAFME grassroots campaigns, and then the direct outreach, of course, as well. So we met with our key legislators, we made phone calls, sent emails, we signed up to speak, and we just maintained that consistent, and I would also say persistent communication throughout the process. Yeah, so partnerships. Let's talk a little bit about that. So our partnerships were critical to this process. We collaborated with a broad network of our organizations, including our arts partners, parent groups, of course, boosters, and our education associations, which I think helped expand our reach and strengthen our message. It's interesting because I think our world is huge, but it's also very oddly connected. So I would literally sit on the couch and think of all of the people I knew in my life at one point that I could reach out to and engage with and ask if I could make a connection with them and if I could use that connection to help strengthen our message and advocate alongside with us. And I asked people that I knew, do you know anybody in this space? And I think those connections were really, really important. And as a result of all of this, we saw really strong engagement. Hundreds of participation took part in our grassroots advocacy efforts, along with additional outreach through meetings, emails, and testimony. And lastly, we educated. We educated each other on the process, and we learned a whole lot from our friends Jasmine A. and Amanda. So thank you so much. We took the time to educate our VMEA leaders on the process and how leadership roles can impact advocacy efforts and what they can do to support. And maybe most importantly, we took the time to educate our delegates and senators on the why we either supported or opposed these bills. And we positioned ourselves as the leaders and the experts in this field. And we focused on all of our stories were about the real impact that it was going to have on teachers and students. So, as yes, they were hard conversations sometimes, and yes, they were easy conversations sometimes, but when it's focused on students, it makes it easy no matter what, because everyone's in it for the kids. So, I truly believe that the relationships we built are going to have an impact well beyond the other wins of this year. And thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Michelle, this is a great example of proactive advocacy and reactive advocacy. Both can be wins. Just because something catches you off guard doesn't mean that you're going to fail in your attempts. And also, we can start the ball rolling because we are the content matter experts and we don't have to wait for somebody to be like, oh, do you want this bill? We can find, just like Anna Ray did, we can
Mhm.
find our legislator and say, hey, are you willing to work with us and partner with us to make music education better for all students, whether it's in your school, your local district, or even your state and even beyond that. So I love that you were able to share the story with us. And again, we're going to bring you back for some more questions. Okay. Thanks,
Awesome.
Michelle.
Thanks.
And up next, we have Lori or Stano James, who is with the New York State Alliance for Arts Education. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you, Jazz Monet. I'm so glad to be here today. And I'm so glad to share with everybody what's going on in New York State. So, New York State has traditionally been known for its arts education, but we've fallen a little bit behind the eight ball, if you will. And a number of years ago, we started having conversation around the fact that in 1951, when education law was originally written into New York State law, to have who was going to get what in schools. Subject areas were listed, all 12 of them, and then in 1958, when they decided to add on from ninth grade to 12th grade, as well as a requirement, these 12 subjects stayed the same, and what was missing was music and the arts. And for years, New York State teachers have had to deal with the fact that when budget cuts happen, the first thing to go is the arts. And we wanted to try to work as much as we could to ensure that that the positions would not be gone, because when positions are gone, students suffer. And we always took it from the concept of everything with regard to this campaign is what's in the best interest of the students, and what's in the best interest of the students, regardless of zip code. Because many people across the nation, when they think New York, they think New York City. But that's only a small part of our state. There's a lot of upstate New York, and it's very rural and farm country and things of that nature. And believe it or not, a number of the issues that occur in the big cities also occur in the rural areas. So NYSSMA, the New York State School Music Association, had basically actually two people who are on the call. We have Michael Brownell, who's on the call, our immediate past Eastern Division president. We also have Mark Green, who is also on this call. The three of us having conversation and doing our thing moved forward and said, this needs to change in New York State. So what we did was we said, the law that we currently have that says what's required for a student for music education or any of the arts education is only regulatory. So districts can offer it or not. They're supposed to, but there's nobody watching them. You know, when Big Brother's not watching, things happen. And we felt that after all of these years from 1951 and 1958, respectfully, that at minimum, we should be statutory. In comes the Every Student Succeeds Act. And the Every Student Succeeds Act, because of the work of NAFME, that did such a phenomenal job in ensuring that music stands alone, and that they were able to ensure that the verbiage at the national level included music and the arts as a requirement of a child's education. We were able to bring that to our state legislation, and when we worked diligently to ensure that we were on committees, such as our New York State ESSA committee, to make sure that that same verbiage took place. And once that happened, well, the rest is, the rest is the story. So this we've been now for 5 years working on this, so two full sessions and one half session, and trying to get this passed. If there's a message I can give to anybody on here, I just want to remind you that good advocacy can take time, and don't become discouraged from it. So we've been working on 5 years. This past year, when we had gotten to the point of saying, what are we doing wrong? And we went and we asked the state Senate education chair, and she said, there's some wording in here that just doesn't work. And she went to the senator who was carrying our bill, and the senator who was carrying our bill sent her legislative director to me, and for an hour and a half, we discussed what our concept was. We were in a three-part concept of what we thought the law should be ultimately. The first was to pass that we were included. The second was that we would have time on task for arts areas. And the third was that it be taught by certified teachers. Well, in that hour and a half, that legislative aide heard very clearly make it part of the law and by certified arts teachers, which is a huge win in New York. I remember sending the information to Jasmine and to Amanda and them saying, oh my God, Lori, do this. Yes, yes, go, move. So we started doing that. And our legislation for Senate Bill 6318A has started to move. As a matter of fact, this year we got it twice approved in the Senate during this past session. And I am pleased to say that as of today, we are over the promised land in the Assembly, which means that we have more than a majority. So we're hoping that our counterpart of the education on the Assembly side will move it forward. There is concern because he's from the city. Obviously, most of the city classes may have some issues. What did we do to get it there, though? And then I'll tell you some more information on that. We not only worked with our state organizations, but NISMA, we made the decision that through working with one of our Board of Regents members, we recreated the New York State Alliance for Arts Education, and we made sure that we had buy-in to that organization from all the arts education organizations. But we also have New Yorkers for Arts. We have Arts New York programs. We've got all kinds of different groupings that are in there, including business organizations that understand that economic development is driven by the arts. One of our biggest partners in this, and one that people say don't get the students involved. Well, I'll tell you right now, the college students have been amazing, and our high school seniors for participation in government. Well, this is right in their wheelhouse. So they've been participating with us. And this past year, we really buckled down on this grassroots campaign. We utilized the grassroots tools that NAFME had for us, and we were able to reach out to parents, school administrators, other educational organizations, including the New York State United Teachers Association, New York State PTA, the New York State Rural School Boards Association. We reached out to the young professionals, and we had information out at every concert, at every art show, at everything that we could possibly do. But what was important about this was that New York State, this year, the budget still isn't passed and was supposed to be passed as of April 1st. Today we got word that maybe the budget did pass. I found out that that's not accurate information. Our Senate and Assembly are saying a 2% raise for the state funding, and the governor is saying 1%, and there's a fight against that. And we are seeing teacher layoffs in the arts in New York State right now. This bill will be enacted upon immediately upon its approval. And I got word yesterday from the governor's office from doing some work that I do on the sidelines. I was able to find out that the governor has now flagged this. It is a priority bill in the Assembly, and we expect to get it over the finish line before June is over.
Yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And thank you so much for sharing that, Lori. And I love what you said. Good advocacy can take time. good advocacy can take time. Speaking of time, it is time to bring back our panelists. Can we get Scott and Jay and Michelle back on the screen? And super thanks to the wonderful director behind the scenes. I believe it's Lynn tonight, and we have some slides going on. But oh, we have questions in the chat. So the first question we have, let me pull it up, is for Michelle. How did you reach out to the booster groups effectively?
That's a really good question, and something we're actually trying to work on. It's like one of our goals for our MEA is how to engage our parents and booster organizations better. But I think this year it was really making sure our teachers knew, and just making sure it was shared with the right people in
Mm,
non-official ways, if that makes sense. So it was kind of sharing it by word of mouth, making sure the right people are aware, and then through the social media aspect. I mean, just by us sharing it, that was rallying the right people, if that makes sense. And then telling people, here is something that is on the floor, just the education piece. This has been proposed, do with this as you will. And your good parents usually know and they get the hint and they start to engage.
yeah, I'll also point out that in Massachusetts, the Music Education Association has a parent group. So you could even start your own parent group, right? Like, not just depending on that one group of parents, you can have your own parent booster group. So thank you for sharing that. I have a question to everyone that I'm going to see if you can bring this into a concise answer. A lot of folks are dealing with potential cuts in their school districts or struggling with state funding budgets. Can you tell us what motivates and sustains you in your advocacy work despite challenges and hurdles?
So I'm going to say this, and I mean this with every ounce of sincerity that is about to be said. Jazz, Monet, and Amanda. They are my rock and salvation on a regular basis because they send me back into the field with great ideas. And then when I go with those ideas to those that I'm working with, my partners in crime, like I said, that are already on this call, but the I took over the state presidency of the New York State Alliance for Arts Education to make sure that we were moving this agenda forward. And we really have just a great team around us. But the best part about this is when we do find the success, even if it's a tiny, tiny piece of success, what that means for kids. And that's what sustains me ultimately. But, our focus needs to be what's in the best interest of children. And, I always say to people in their advocacy work, do not talk about the jobs. Do not talk about the jobs lost. You talk about the program, you talk about the kids, you talk about what we're offering to them.
Well said, Lori.
I would just add to what Lori said. First of all, I think we would all agree with the great rock stars that Jasmine and Amanda are for us all. But it really is the reality. I think as music teachers in the classroom, we a lot of times feel isolated in what we do, and the reality of it is, I think for us in Ohio, for example, uh, the networking and the number of organizations coming together that perhaps wouldn't under normal circumstances is both not it's obviously more effective for us. But I think it's also partly what sustains us because it turns out there's a lot of us that feel the same way. And then, again, like Lori said, I think focusing on the successes, it's going to take, every little success is a victory for the long haul of the battle. So just have to keep that going.
Yeah, every success is a victory.
I think
Scott?
one of the things that helps sustain me a little bit, and I've talked to some of the decision makers in our district, it's rare that they really want to cut the arts, I think, and they're doing it because of the bottom line. And I when I keep in mind that most of these folks are not out to get us, it makes the advocacy process, I think, a lot less negative. And I can see it from their standpoint and try and come up with solutions to help, as opposed to being thinking of it as a war of them against us. I really think that helps me a lot. And again, I'll echo again what Lori said and what Jay just said. It's all about the kids. And I know what music did for me, and I know what music can do for them. And that keeps me going all the time.
Great. Michelle, did you want to share?
My answer was the same. It was the students. Just keep it focused on them. I think there are why everyone loves to talk about the impact that anything that we can do to help kids. The other thing I just said was don't give up. Like it's not over till it's over. I'm actually motivated a lot I mean it's exhausting, but I was motivated more by the bill that we didn't want to passing unanimously, than I was about the seal. Like the seal was a great win, and we definitely made sure we stayed on top of that and pushed it through. But it was the other one that was really rallying people, and saying, "Oh, is this a problem? Okay, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do everything in my power, to make sure that we can do what we can." So at the end of the day, we can at least feel good about that. Like we did everything we could, we tried, and we kept it focused on kids the whole time.
Gosh, yeah. And I would add, yes, focusing on kids, but also what keeps me is getting to work with awesome leaders such as yourselves. Like this advocacy network is strong, and we work better when we learn from each other and we borrow from each other. I love how Michelle said, Jay, you're my friend. We only met tonight. And I I love that about music educators in that when we are in this, because we know what the struggle is like, we are in it together. So thank you all for that. And then I have one more question from the chat, and it's directed at Lori. And the question is, does New York School's teaching certification test have other like subject areas on it, like math, or is it just like music as a subject on it? So they're just asking about.
So in New York State, I happen to I supervise student teachers for Ithaca College. That's my retirement gig. And in that process, when the student gets certification, they are certified K-12, actually pre-K 12, in New York State, and they are music educators. So it doesn't make a difference if their specialty area is vocal versus instrumental. It doesn't matter what the area is. So that means that you could be a high school band teacher. I just know of somebody who just got a schedule change for next year, teaching high school band and elementary general music, all in the same time. And she is the director of music of the district, because they are laying off a position because of this process I told you about. And she called me up and she's like, "What do I do?" And I said, "Play the long hand. We're going to get there." There's a definite situation like that. Thank you, Natalie. Go Bombers. Uh,
Well, I just want to say thank you again to the wonderful panelists. Audience, if you could give them a round of applause in the chat or reactions. And I just want to plug, Michelle, that you might have a new friend in Lance in Nebraska who is asking questions about the seal for Nebraska. So, again, thank you, panelists, so much for sharing your victories, because in your struggles and accomplishing hurdles for advocacy, we learn from you. So thank you for being the advocacy leaders that you are. Thank you so much. All right, we will transition back to the slides. So, as I said, we learn from other people's stories and journeys. I just want you to take a moment and to in the chat, what's going to be your next step from the information that you got today? We had a fantastic story about the district level, and utilizing parents in a creative way to fund. Now that you know Mesa, Arizona School District success story exists, we also have utilizing AI tools to help get us marketing and resources, the success stories, proactive and reactive from Virginia, but also that advocacy takes time from New York. So put in the chat something that you learned from today, and that you'll be able to take forward. I'm going to check the chat. also take a moment to maybe send a private message and say, hey, this is my email address. I'd love to connect with our panelists. All right, we're going to move on forward to the next slide. As always, there is an opportunity for your voice to be heard at the federal level. What we do at the federal level does impact us at the local and state level. So on the screen is a link to NAFME's funding campaign that we are asking everyone to share and participate in because your voice is powerful and we need your voice at the federal level to make sure that we are enacting funding for music education. So I believe there will be a link in the chat directly to that as well. But I just wanted to make sure that we give that another plug and also share that with your networks because, again, we need as many content experts and supporters of music education sending their messages to Congress to let them know that music education needs to be supported. Next slide, please. And I will pass it back to our awesome moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine A. Thank you
There's
to all the
Mark.
panelists. Just fantastic information shared here tonight from so many different levels. So I saw a few of the takeaways in the chat, and I'm sure that there's many more that you're thinking of. So wanted to give you a few housekeeping things as we wrap up tonight. So Jay talked about Carl B. If you have not checked out Carl B, go and check it out. AI is not going away, as Jay brilliantly talked about the different ways that he is using it. It is important for all of us to be aware of it. It is not going away. It is going to be part of our lives. And we are so lucky to have this AI chatbot in Carl B on the Music is Education website. So if you've not checked it out, please go ahead and check that out. We want to tell you just a little about some upcoming pieces of the puzzle here. Our next webinar will be in the fall. We will let you know when that is. You should all be on the email list. And so you will be hearing from us. We're going to internally work on some content for next year. Please continue to check out the Music is Education website where there are already resources on there, but we will continue to add resources throughout the summer. And you can, from there, you can get a link to our YouTube page, but the link is also here where you can find all of the previous webinars, including this webinar, and you might be watching us on YouTube right now, and of course, Carl B as well. We just want to say thank you again to so many people who helped make this happen. All of our presenters today, the folks that you see on the screen who are a part of the planning committee for Music is Education. Special thanks to the team at Music for All for handling some of the behind the scenes technology, but particularly tonight, helping in the behind the scenes technology, Lynn Tuttle and Ann Fennell, who made some magic happen behind the scenes that you didn't even know was happening because they're just that good. You didn't even know was happening. So thank you all again for being with us. We'll give you a few minutes back of your time tonight. But we look forward to seeing you on the next Music Education's webinar in the fall, and continue to check out musiciseducation.org. Best to all of you as you end the school year. Thanks for being with us tonight.